Just get yourself centered for the information to come in. All right. Welcome. So, it's a little damp here today, and my back is feeling it a little bit. So today, I was guided to talk to you all about constipation. My family has talked poop talk, well, the family that I created, their whole life. It was always very comfortable talking about elimination. It was kind of the first thing that would come up when they had headaches, belly aches, etc. So, constipation has obviously the nutritional, physical stuff. And then we'll also talk about the emotional components, because fear and control definitely have a big to-do as far as constipation. And then, because the bowels are housed between the first and second chakra, we'll talk about those influences as well. So let's talk physical first. So in the physical body, the colon and any issues regarding the colon can be dealt with similar concepts that we're going to talk about today. Not just constipation, but irritable bowel, etc. So with the bowel itself, the small intestines are the first road that the food takes once it's been processed through the stomach. And the small intestines take up what they need to take up, and then it goes to the large intestine. Now there are two, what do we call them, doors in the large intestine. Mostly one is acknowledged, the other one is rarely ever acknowledged. One on each side, the starter and then the finisher. And then of course you have the bottom, the anus, which is the third door, which also has two, but I know it's a lot of anatomy. So there are lots of doors with which this organism called the bowel, the large bowel, has to regulate and it has to be in balance with. Okay? They're basically checkpoints. All right? So the ileocecal valve, which is on the right side, it's somewhere between, everybody's slightly different, between the belly button and the hip bone, in the squishy part of your lower belly, the lower abdomen. And so on the right side, the waist goes up, and then it goes across the transverse, then it goes down the left, the descending, and then it goes to an S shape, which they call the sigmoid, which heads everything back towards the opening, and then you have the rectal colon, which is the last bit. Okay, so the ileocecal valve is one of the doors, trap doors, checkpoints. On the left, it is the finishing of the small intestine, and then there's the checkpoint, and then there's the large intestine, which takes the food back up the chute and around to the back. Okay, so that ileocecal valve is one checkpoint which can be thrown out of balance. You may have senses of discomfort there. You may feel cramping. The appendix is not too far from there, which has to do with how some bacteria is trapped from the appendix. It's considered to be similar to the tonsils, in which it gets signals and has some white blood cell properties that get sent out from the appendix because of bacteria, etc. So that's one checkpoint. The other checkpoint is pretty much the same, but on the other side, which is after the food has gone the waist has gone back down the descending colon and is about ready to go towards the back through the sigmoid, there's another checkpoint. And that one can also create some tension and soreness. And if you go to an alternative-based chiropractor, they may have ways to, or TBM practitioner, they may have ways of opening, closing, just balancing those compartments out. Something that I do pretty regularly when people call me with bowel issues. And then we have the two other checkpoints, which before the food goes out. Those are more signals to the brain that there's, that tells the brain, hey, look, something's a-coming. And then if you keep holding it, it's really going to tell you something's a-coming and you got to get to the restroom, okay? So you have two basic mental checkpoints, two more physical checkpoints. So what are checkpoints? Checkpoints are stop and finding out if everything's going all right. If the bowels need to evacuate, all doors open, boosh, and everything needs to come out, right? So there's a symbiotic relationship between all these doors to help you balance, eliminate, evacuate if necessary. And then there's the other side, which is we'll listen to control factors. So, stay on the physical side for just a moment. The bowel, the large intestine, can be massaged and should be massaged regularly. Why? Because we sit on our butts way too much, okay? The bowels do not really get moved unless we move, right? So they require quite a bit of hydration and movement. And because we're sitting so much in our society, our bowels are just blocked up, all right? So twisting is really important. It kind of, we call it ringing of the bowels. Self-massage is absolutely beneficial. Get some oil, jojoba, vitamin E, coconut, olive oil, any of those things, sesame seed, those are all great oils to help massage. And make sure you go up the left, somewhere between the belly button and the waist, across the transverse, which is somewhere between the belly button and the end of your sternum, down your left, so upright, across, down your left, and then push towards the center underneath your belly button. That would be a really great way of starting to gain some relationship with your colon. Really important. Why? Because if things are not moving through your colon, they putrefy, they ferment, all the bubblies and the gases, and if they're not hydrated well, you can get kinks and plaque inside of the colon itself, which is a sticky, viscous subject that will attract itself and just keep folding on itself. If you have had any surgery in your abdomen at all, whether that's gallbladder, spleen, hernia, umbilical surgeries, C-sections, all all that sort of stuff, even the open heart, depending upon how low they go, all that can affect your bowels and create constipation simply by the fact of creating tension. So the tension in the bowels is important to recognize. So yes, tight-waisted pants causes a problem, especially if you're sitting a lot, right? So that area is constantly tense and in tension from its surroundings. Not twisting, bending over a lot, resting your rib cage on your belly because you're not sitting up tall. All those things cause the colon to have a very condensed and restricted environment. Holding your stomach in all the time is also a problem. All right. So So what does like some of the corsets and stuff do? Could you imagine? Could you imagine? There's corset training and the girdles and all that sort of stuff. Your organs have to adjust. They certainly adjust when you're pregnant. Okay. They're going to have to adjust if things change from the outside, not just from the inside. So those are things. Oh, and I didn't include prostate surgeries and things like that that happen from the front. They happen from the back. They could involve the colon. Sometimes the scar tissue, because scar tissue is different for everybody. However, its general purpose is to be thicker than what used to be there because it's a healing component, right? So it's a little bit like, you know, sometimes you walk into spider webs or touch spider webs, and sometimes they just dissipate, they're not a big deal, and sometimes they just stick and glop on your hand and you can't get them off. That's kind of like scar tissue. It's also fascia. So fascia, we could do like 6 topics of fascia. But let's just say scar tissue can absolutely not only bother the electrical system of the body, energetic system of the body, but can also create problems for the organs as well, and muscles. So that's the physical stuff. There are, last bit of physical, so the spinal column also have corresponding organs that relate to the different parts of the body. So if your L4, L5-ish area, sacrum, so let's say L3, lumbar 3, 4, 5, and sacral area, those can also, if they're out of whack, can also affect how the nerves communicate to the large intestine. Aight. So that's the physical stuff. So self-massage, lots of it. Can do lots of it, and that would be okay. Watch your pressure, you know, you might find some bubbles and things like that, so just be very gentle. You don't have to do it really hard. It is, I am not unfamiliar with taking my elbow through the belly to the spine to get to things. No, it's not comfortable. Sometimes it's just necessary, but I'm trained and I know how to do it. And the alleviation is astounding. Okay, can also be done energetically, and there's that.